Joining us tonight to discuss the protest over delay in the passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the Senate is Andrew Mamedu. He's the country director, ActionAid. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you've staged this. First off, I mean, you heard from the Senate there that they need another 24 hours to study the details and the provisions of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, asking for another 24 hours. How does that even, how do you receive that? Does it give you a sense that they actually understand this new provisions in the new, in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that's being proposed?
Thank you very much. If you look at both houses, the Senate and the House of Rep, they had a joint committee that reviewed these documents. And somehow the House of Rep has passed these same documents in December.
Right.
So we would have expected that the Senate would have done the same thing in December. And asking for a bit more time, maybe we would have been able to give a bit more time if we are not pressed for time.
Right.
We require 1 year cycle for elections to take place. So once INEC announces the election cycle, commencement of the election cycle, we would no longer be able to make that amendment. And if you go back to history, where are we coming from?
Right.
We've had the last 5 presidents, President Obasanjo, President Yar'Adua tried to make an amendment.
He actually made a promise that
he tried, with the wage reform, perfect. And he tried, but of course, he was not able to.
Yeah.
But President Jonathan, who took over after his demise, signed that bill in 2010. And in 2011, we saw President Jonathan was the only president in the past 5 dispensations that has signed an electoral act in his first term.
Right.
Fast forward, we had President Buhari, this President Buhari, and we did all we could to get the Electoral Act passed in his first term because there were issues. We all agree. So even after the last election, there were a whole lot of issues, and we agreed. I'll pick one issue. We had over 1,200 court cases pre-election and, of course, with the Electoral Tribunal.
Unwieldy.
Yeah, very unwieldy. So that's expensive. That causes a lot of commotion around the country. So for us, is how do we minimize this? And the more we amend our Electoral Act, the more we get closer to getting it right. So we were not able to get President late President Buhari, to sign in his first term. So that passed until his second term. His second term he did. 2022. 2022, he was able to pass it.
Yes.
So we are seeing a pattern, we're seeing a trend. Is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu able to pass the Electoral Act in his first term? There's this whole saying that you don't change a winning team.
Right.
So we are kind of scared. We are kind of worried. Are we going to see a similar script we saw during Buhari's time in President Tinubu's time? So if that is not what we're going to see, we have less than a month for anything to happen, because like I said, once INEC announces the commencement, then you will not be able to.
Which means we'll have to fall back to the Electoral Act 2022. And what would be the implications of
that's daring for us, and that's not what we want. That's not what the citizens want. And for us, citizens, the highest power the citizens have is the power to elect their representatives, to elect the people that will stand for them, to elect the president. And if the citizens do not decide how that should be, then, of course, what are we running?
For the benefit of our viewers who may be wondering, what's the big deal about this, Electoral Act Amendment Bill? What makes it so different from what is on ground already, especially if the political will is not there to actually implement whatever changes that are required? What are the critical areas in this new proposed bill that will be the game changer?
We need people to implement the bill, but the biggest component of that bill is the compulsion for electronic transmission of results,
right,
using IREF. So making it compulsory. So you saw what happened with courts from the courts from all the courts up to Supreme Court. So that is the biggest, and of course, ensuring that politicians are disciplined, political parties are disciplined. So all of those are contained in the new Electoral Act. We need to give power to the people.
When
so
you say
when
discipline,
people,
just to get
yes,
a little more clarification,
yes,
for political parties to be disciplined, in what sense?
Airing political parties.
Right.
So when political parties err, then we should be able to, the tribunal should be able to rule on them, and there are disciplinary measures that will be meted out on them on time, so that to deter future occurrence. But right now, we see things happening over and over. I'll give you a good example. In terms of commencement of campaign, so we are not supposed to have commenced campaigns.
And they have already.
People have commenced campaign, but guess what?
Right.
There is no part of the law that says this is the punishment that you will get for commencing campaign. So clearly, those kind of things, we need to put them in our law and ensure that we sign them in this time around.
Is there an aspect of the electoral law that should address the issue of defections from one party to the other? Or should it be left entirely to the Constitution? Of course, there's a process to amend that too. We
try to put that in, but of course, politicians are not yet comfortable. They're not yet comfortable to allow that in. So, but definitely that should come into the law. So that should come in. That will strengthen our democracy, basically.
Absolutely. Now, opposition says, and just like we heard in that report, that there seems to be an attempt to actually buy time and to ensure, especially on the part of the Senate, they are saying that the Senate is actually bent on frustrating the passage of the electoral law.
That's why
legislative sabotage.
That's why I went back in history.
How do you get the Senate then to understand that this is an urgent situation that they must address very quickly?
So it seemed to us that there's a change of tactics. So during President Buhari's time, it was the president that was refusing to give assent to the bill because the bill was passed by the Senate. It was passed by the House of Rep and Senate.
Right.
But this time around, there's a change of tactics. So we suspect that, okay, if the Senate refuses to pass it, then it's not on the president's desk. Because it's one thing for the Senate to even pass it on Thursday or look at it on Thursday, consider it on Thursday and pass it on Thursday. It's another thing for the president to assent to it. Right. So that's the journey we are. And of course, our citizens, we are going to hold government, executive and law and legislators accountable to make sure that this happens.
All right, thank you very much. Andrew Mamedu is Country Director, ActionAid. Thank you for joining us.